this computer for recording. All right, so we are going to set up a development environment for the community calendar backend. Cool. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to our repo. To check out the README. All right. Backend framework, client repositories, build installation. Our server relies on Auth0 and another Prisma PostgreSQL deployment to function correctly. If you would like to get your own local community calendar server running, clone this repo and follow this guide here. Okay, that sounds easy. Deciding where to put my repo. This looks good. All right. All right. We cloned the repo. We'll just open up a terminal here and do the rest of our work between VS Code and this. Follow this guide here. All right, how to set up your own community calendar, Prisma, PostgreSQL on Heroku, and link it to your Auth0 account. All right, create and log into your account on Prisma.io. So the reason why you do this on Prisma.io is because that is the quickest and easiest way to do it. All right, so you can see I've already got one here. Let's kill it.
So that account is just gonna be a personal account, right? Because I saw that you had one for the Lambda Labs community calendar.
Yep. So that's for the official production one, right?
Okay.
So for your development environment, you're going to set up your own, because when you're developing, you're just going to be putting trash in the database. You're going to be breaking it. So you need your own setup for you to develop on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you're going to, when we're done, just so you can picture in your mind when we're done, you're going to do npm run on your Apollo server, and you're going to run your Apollo server on localhost 4000. But that Apollo server is going to connect to this Prisma service in the cloud. You could also be running Prisma that you configured Docker with Postgres on your local computer. And we're going to have to do something similar to that when we go to AWS anyway. But for this, what we did is we just used personal Prisma accounts because it was free and it was easy. And it meant we didn't have to configure Docker. And then even when we deployed, we just used a free Prisma deployment. Okay, cool. So let's, all right. Click on servers and add server. Let's delete this server. No cheating. No cheating. Add server. We'll just call this Jelena Prisma Dev 3. Server description is Prisma service for community. create a server. Let's do create a new database. Let's do it on Heroku. Personal Heroku. Let me go to my Heroku and make sure I actually have enough things available to do this. Yep. Oh, this isn't my personal Heroku. Oh, I'm gonna have to delete some stuff. So let's just delete this right now.
Is the limit 5?
Huh?
Like
the limit's 5.
Limit is 5, okay.
Yep. Okay, so now I got one available. All right, so a free hobby dev, create database. Let's set up a server on Heroku, a free one. And so this already has my Heroku credentials, but at some point I had to do the OAuth thing where I hooked up Prisma to my Heroku credentials. Have you guys even created a Heroku account yet? Okay, some of you have? All right. Hopefully that doesn't mean something is going wrong. Yay! View the server. All right. I do not see my server. There she is. Booting. Good. Good news. All right. It sounds like we're on the right track. All right. If you haven't already installed Prisma globally. So let's do Prisma version. Okay. I have installed Prisma globally. That's good news. Cool. And we are going to be using some of these commands. I love it. All right. Copy the string where it says log into Prisma CLI. If you're already logged in to Prisma.io, you can also type Prisma login to your terminal. So basically, so I'm already logged into here, but this will be something where you'll have to screw around a little bit potentially. So I can just type in Prisma login, and it's going to open up a browser window. It's going to verify my credentials. It's going to say like, okay, I'm going to let this terminal instance integrate with my Prisma and like do a bunch of work for me, because that sounds like a convenient thing for me. All right, so I'm now authenticated. I'm on my personal account. When you're bouncing back and forth between like the official Prisma cloud thing and this, you got to be a little careful to make sure that you're authenticating with the right one. So you're sending all your merges and whatever and everything to the right Prisma service. Okay. Cool. CD into the Prisma client folder. All right. So here I am in source. I see this folder called Prisma client. It has a couple interesting things: a data model, YAML file, testing generated data. So I'll give you a quick tour of this. So generated data is the seed file we wrote with all the seed data. So this is something we wrote, and it's optional. You don't have to seed your database, but it's very useful to seed your database. Generated is all exactly that. It's going to be generated by the Prisma command line when I run a certain command. Data model. This is what we wrote. And then this is our little schema definition where we defined all of our types, and we also defined our relations. So you can see we've got type user, which has a relation to event. For RSVPs, I've RSVP'd to, and you can see what we're linking on. So this is just the actual schema building we did. And when we update this data model, we just rerun all our Prisma stuff and redeploy. But this is the data model. And if you can imagine, like, this is for the whole app. That's it. It's 85 lines of code, including a bunch of tables we didn't actually end up using. And what you're going to get out of it is this, which is where it creates all of these types and relations for you to map your data model onto your database. So that's what Prisma does for you. And basically, it just makes using GraphQL easy, because instead of having to think about how do I write all of these resolvers and type definitions, Prisma gives you kind of a menu, and you can pick which one of these you're going to use. So anyway, that's kind of like some big picture why stuff about what we're doing. And then you have this Prisma YAML file, which has very important information about how do we set up this Prisma. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Okay, delete everything in the prisma.yaml file except for this stuff, save the file. All right, I'm not going to do that because I've already configured all of this. Well, no, I am going to do all of this. Why not? Okay, yep, I do need to do all of this. So this is it. This is it in the Prisma YAML file, the first time we do it. Save the file. In our prisma.yaml file, we are using environmental variables. This hides our Prisma endpoint to the public. Using secret also protects our Prisma service from unauthorized access. Okay, in some of the following terminal commands, you will notice a E flag followed by the .e and v file. This is flag is not necessary if you're hard coding the endpoint into your prisma.yaml. Okay, so you'll see what will happen as long as this goes how I'm expecting. So now let's do Prisma deploy. And so what I'm hoping this is going to do is deploy my Prisma service. Are you sure you're in the right directory? I'm not, because I didn't cd into Prisma client. Prisma deploy. So Prisma deploy looks in my directory. All right. And you see here, I'm using the arrows to navigate. So I don't want to set up a new Prisma server. I want to connect to jl/Jelinus Prisma dev 3. Choose a name for your Prisma service. If you don't choose anything, it'll just be default. Choose a name for your stage. Don't choose anything. Okay, cool. Written endpoint to prisma.yaml, creating stage, deploying, okay? You can see how it dropped this endpoint into the YAML file that I had deleted previously. So basically, when this is done, oh, it's creating all my tables, all my relations. Fingers crossed. Go Prisma, go. The only change the next time I do this is that whole flow where it's creating a new service or whatever. It won't do that next time because the service will be all created and I'll have extra information here in the YAML file. YAML stands for YAML ain't markup language. It's just like Markdown or JSON. It's just a way of encoding data. But anyway, we'll see. And then we'll move all of this stuff because we don't want to put any of this information like our endpoint or our secret or any of that stuff into the YAML file because we're going to commit this to the GitHub. And I'm not sure if they covered it in the meeting this morning or anything like that, but you never want to put your secrets or your application-specific information that might compromise your security into the GitHub. And then also because we're all using the same repo, but we're all going to have different development environments, we're going to want to use the repo in a staging and production environment. Abstracting all this stuff into environmental variables means we can do that. Almost there. The little Prisma client that could, 68 of 80. So this is like, you guys remember running migrations in SQLite? You would write migrations, and you would run the migrations, you would write seeds, and you would run the seeds. This is the same kind of process. Come on, 74 of 80. I really hope one of these like doesn't fail at the very end. Like that gets to like 79 of 80 and then it's like, cool. So you can see here, it saved all of the information into generated/Prisma client and shaved the schema into generated/Prisma GraphQL. So let's look. Oh, all these files have been modified. Good to know. All right, so this generated folder just got replaced with the new hotness. And if there wasn't a generated folder before, it would have created one. My Prisma endpoint is live. Prove it. Showing up. Let's look at our schema. Holy shit. Look at all that. Let's look at our docs. Oh man, this is a little overwhelming. I don't know if I need all that. This is literally access to perform any operation for any relationship between any established data in the database. I don't know if we're going to need all of this, but we might need some of it. It's good. We'll see. Okay, so we got this Prisma endpoint here. Cool. You can view your data and edit it here. Oh, there's an admin thing. Let's see what this looks like. So I never use this admin workspace, just quick disclosure. Okay, cool. And so basically this is like a little GUI where if there was data in my database, I can see it. Cool. Thank you, Prisma. And this is kind of the difference between the Prisma open source software and then this is the Prisma cloud service, which is free for our implementation, but this is how Prisma makes their money, is selling this cloud interface dashboard experience to enterprise customers. Okay, cool. What's next on our README? All right, after the service is deployed, copy the endpoint URL and put it in the .env. All right, so let's go back. I don't have a .env. Now I do. All right, so we have an endpoint. And just for my comfort, I'm going to put it up here. It doesn't matter what order the information is in as long as it's in there. And now Prisma equals that.
Do you need to make that a string?
No, I think it automatically does. I think everything in the .env file is a string that I'm aware of. But we'll find out. Maybe I fucked it up. Okay, and then that's how in YAML you reference an environmental variable. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Recommend adding a secret. What a secret means is that somebody will not be able to read or write your data unless they know your secret. So right now, because this has no secret, like anybody with this URL, I think can go in here and read and write. But when I add a secret, I don't think that's true. I think that restricts who can read and write. I am not sure the exact details of how the secret is implemented. So we'll find out. Cool. All right, so now I've got a secret. Okay, that's cool, that's cool. Dogs are cool, I like that. I like it. This is what your Prisma YAML currently looks like. Oh, this seed thing is gone. All right. I want that seed thing back. All that means is look into this folder, data/seed.graphql to get our seed data. All right, and it says run this command now. All right, and the point of running this command is now we're gonna regenerate this file, but add our secret to it. So that in the future, people will not be able to see our information unless they have our secret. That's what I think is what's going on. But this flag -e ... /.env is the path to the environmental variables. So let's see what happens. That was a lot faster. Okay, cool. All right, now let's deploy it again with our secret. Do you think it'll be as slow as the first one or as fast as the second one? Cool, 4.4 seconds. Your Prisma endpoint should now be live and good to go. And I wonder if I can even access this anymore now that I don't have the secret. Yeah, I can. Maybe I can't access the data though. I don't think it seeded my database though. Let's see if it talks about seed. Nope, it goes straight here. So I will give you guys a quick peek. Export Prisma help seed. Seed is not a Prisma command. You said it was a Prisma command. Seed a service with data specified in the prisma.yaml. Reset the service before seeding. So this is just something here. I always use the -r because like when I'm reseeding, I want to clean out the database. You know how you would put truncates in? Like you would truncate your database in SQLite before you seeded it. That's effectively what -r does. So let's do Prisma seed. We want the environmental flag. And we want to reset. Fingers crossed.
So you said the -r just clears the whole database?
Yep. In order to see, huh?
You said that -r just clears the existing database?
Yeah, before you seed it.
All right then, go.
And real quick, how can you actually tell from the playground without running a query whether it's seeded or not?
Want to know what's funny? I think I forgot to save these files before I ran all that Prisma stuff, and that's why I went so fast. So 1 second. So let's Prisma generate with our .env file. And let's Prisma deploy with our .env file now that it's all saved. What did you ask, boss?
Sorry, just from the playground, how can you tell without running a query whether it has the data in the database or not?
How can you tell? You can't.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So now let's seed. Resetting, so that means it's clearing out the database. And so the Prisma service isn't just the database. It's also the ORM, which means for every table in the database, it created some kind of object relation inside of the Prisma service that it refers to as nodes. And then this discussion of objects and nodes and object relational mapping to the database is like common, but maybe not super familiar to you guys yet. So when it's resetting, it's not just clearing out the database, but it's clearing out all the nodes. All right, resetting, application error, I love it. And it doesn't give us any more explanation of why it's not working when we try and seed. Let's try it again. This is not fun. So it says Heroku is giving them an error when it tries to do that. And that doesn't make any sense. See if there's information about seeding down, data down here. Nope, nope. So that's a little disappointing. Why the seed is not working. But I don't want for you guys to sit through me debugging that whole thing. We'll just go on to the Apollo server. But the bottom line is we have a Prisma client, and it is deployed, and we have access to our schema. And if we had put data in the database, we would have access to the data. Okay, so let's go to number 2. Deploy your Apollo server to Heroku. All right. Add config vars from the env file you created early, and add node environment equals production in your apps Heroku settings. Example of what our Heroku environment variables currently look like. So all these other secrets that are up here, environmental variables, are necessary to, so the Cloudinary stuff and the Ticketmaster stuff is kind of optional. Cloudinary stuff is necessary for image upload, so I'll use it. But unless we're using the Ticketmaster API, we don't need to put that Ticketmaster key in here. So everything above here, above the line, was for Prisma. Everything below the line is for your extra environmental variables for your Apollo service. All right, so deploy your Apollo server to Heroku. Now I'm going to create a new app called all right. So because I'm in the GitHub org, I'm tracking, I can just do this. Admin access to repository required. All right, so if I can't do that, I can do this. Okay, so Heroku login. Logged in as JL Jelinas. So let's go back to the home directory. Git Heroku, git remote. So now I have set this repository to be linked upstream to Heroku. When I type in git push Heroku master, what it will do is it will deploy my app to Heroku. So instead of linking it to the GitHub repo, this is the other way to deploy to Heroku. How's everybody feeling? I feel like that little stumble there might have thrown you guys off a little bit. It threw me off too. You gotta roll with it.
I'm kind of lost, honestly.
It's kind of
So my mistake is I didn't follow the README. I stopped going off of memory. And I was like, I'm going to be able to run this locally, this and that, when the README was saying deploy to Heroku. I should have just deployed to Heroku like the README said. Cool. So this is now my Heroku server. And then this Heroku server should be connected to my Prisma service because I put those environmental variables in. So let's test and see if that's true. Response not successful. Receive status code 5000.
You need a closing bracket for the events.
Cannot read property. Internal server error. So let's see if what needs to be done is after I've created this Heroku deployment, right? And now I can see that I have a server that is deployed, build succeeded and deployed, is I need to configure the environmental variables on Heroku. And then this is what I skipped over. Yep. And so this is why it's not working. So let's go back to the README. Add config vars. So node environment needs to be production. I need an API audience. Let's just do the Prisma stuff first. Prisma. So this is my Prisma endpoint. Secret. So now that I've done this, I believe I need to redeploy. Maybe it'll just work. Let's test and see. Okay, now it works. So it's saying there's no events in the database, but it's working because I've put in the Prisma endpoint in my environmental variables. And what this means is now my Apollo server is hitting, like the Apollo server itself is querying my Prisma endpoint, which is here. So the Apollo server is querying the Prisma endpoint to get the data, but there is no data, so it's just returning an empty array. But it is processing the request and it is sending a response. Okay, the rest of these environmental variables and the rest of this information is to add authentication and image uploading to the application, right? So the reason why I can hit the events endpoint is because the events endpoint does not require you to be logged in. But all these other things, these Cloudinary keys are required for creating an event. When you upload an image, we handle that image uploading through Cloudinary. So your development server has to be configured with these keys. So that functionality will work. And then these API items in Auth0 domain needs to be configured so that you can interact with Auth0. So now we're back on track. All right. And we're creating our Auth0 account. But here's what I'd offer. I think that was a lot. And I think that was enough for you guys to do a lot of good work. Because success for this phase is you have your own development server deployed and you are getting a response. And you saw me troubleshoot that through getting the server 500 to the things I had to change. Now I'm getting a response from my server. Okay, so now my server is running. It just doesn't have data. I can't log in, and I can't upload images, right? But configuring all that other shit might be best after you guys have a chance to wrap your head around just getting your Prisma server up and running and getting your Apollo server up and running. And then we'll jump off the deep end with Auth0 and Cloudinary and all that stuff. How's that sound? Okay. All right. I can tell everybody's a little overwhelmed and a little frustrated.